Good evening. Okay, the purpose of this video is because I am studying for the EPPP, and studying is more fun if you have someone to do it with. So I'm glad you're here. We are going to dive right in. In this video, we're going to talk about the first three of the four parts of the APA Code of Conduct. And they are Introduction and Applicability, the Preamble, and the General Principles. And ethical standards, oh, there's a bunch of those. And so, yeah, we'll definitely get around to those, but let's just start here for now. All right, and we are going to start with the Introduction and Applicability, the first of the four parts of the Code of Ethics. And it is right here on our outline. It's all in white. And so what is the purpose of the introduction? It is to lay out the intent, right? We're laying out the intent, the organization, procedural considerations, and the scope of the application of the Code of Ethics, which is essentially how it will be used. All right, so this paragraph right here really kind of lays out for us the consequences, right? It says that if you're an APA member, that you're committing to this code of ethics. And I'm a master's level, so I don't even think I can join the APA, but it's important to note that this can also be used by state psychological associations, and it's also used by the law and by other professional organizations. And the consequences for violations of this code of conduct are that the APA can impose sanctions, and your state professional organizations and your state psychological associations can also, they can terminate membership, they can revoke your license, and an important caveat he listed here is that you have no guarantee of a hearing. All right, and all my study guides really focus on this part, which says that while this really applies to your professional life, not your personal life, if you are convicted of a felony, the APA can take action against you after that conviction. And so, you know, even if the conviction has nothing to do with your practice of psychology, if your behavior is a violation of the code, honestly, if you're convicted of a felony, I'm sure your behavior is a violation in some way of the code of ethics. Then they can take action. And there is a case that we need to know, and that is the case of Fisher in 2009. And basically, that's what it found, is that that the APA can come in after a felony conviction and take action against you. Let's see if I've forgotten anything here. All right, an important note is that that the Code of Ethics recognizes that it's not the only authority on ethics, and I believe that is actually down here. And it talks about how when there are other sources of ethics, and that includes consulting with your peers and your own conscience and other organizations' rules, like your company you work for, and of course the law. And any time that there are conflicts between any of these codes of ethics that you follow, that you need to meet the higher standard, whatever that may be. And you also need to do so in keeping with the basic principles of human rights and that you need to take steps to resolve the conflict. And this is important because if there's a conflict between legal obligations and the APA Code of Ethics, the higher standard, it may not be the law. It may require that you don't follow the law in that case. So whichever is the higher standard and whichever is in keeping with basic principles of human rights. And when you are working for the legal system, there are other codes of ethics that you can follow to make sure that you are practicing ethically, because things like confidentiality may not apply to the client that you're working with if you are gathering information for a case against them. So in those cases, there's the specialty guidelines for forensic psychology, and that states that you need to inform the clients of the limits of the confidentiality, and that you inform them to the nature and the purpose of treatments. And then this section here, that talks about modifiers. And so we'll find lots of words like reasonably or appropriate or potentially, that don't really give us a hard and fast measure to follow, but the Code of Ethics is full of them, and it says that they exist for these reasons: to allow for professional judgment, to eliminate inequality, so that the ethics provisions here can apply more broadly, and so that they can adapt with the times. And essentially, it says that they're there to keep the wording from being too strict. And okay, let's talk about the preamble. This is the second of the 4 sections, and we're just going to read it because it's actually really short. Psychologists are committed to increasing scientific and professional knowledge of behavior and people's understanding of themselves and others, and to the use of such knowledge to improve the condition of individuals, organizations, and society. Psychologists respect and protect civil and human rights and the central importance of freedom of inquiry and expression in research, teaching, and publication. They strive to help the public in developing informed judgments and choices concerning human behavior. In doing so, they perform many roles, such as researcher, educator, diagnostician, therapist, supervisor, consultant, administrator, social interventionist, and expert witness. This ethics code provides a common set of principles and standards upon which psychologists build their professional work. All right, and so essentially, just to sum that up, the preamble, it lists all of the values that we need to aspire to as psychologists, and they are increasing knowledge, improving conditions, providing principles for us to follow, and protecting civil and human rights, and protecting the freedom to ask questions and follow the truth and publish. Okay, we are now into the third part, the third of 4. This part of the Code of Ethics is this is the general principles, and there are 5, A through E, and they are aspirational. They are not enforceable. These are not intended to be used against you in any sort of civil litigation. And they're also not intended to be used as a basis for imposing sanctions. So A is, and I had to look up how to say this, pronunciation guide, is officially beneficence and non-maleficence. And what they mean is that you strive to benefit the client, and that you also strive to do no harm. And so whenever there is an obligation conflict, you resolve that obligation conflict in a way that does no harm. You watch out for factors that might lead to abusive influence, and that you're aware of your own physical and mental health on your clients. All right, principle B is fidelity and responsibility. Fidelity and responsibility. And included in that is that you're aware of your responsibilities to society, that you're aware of your responsibilities to the client populations that you work with, that you uphold professional standards of conduct, that you clarify your roles and obligations, you accept responsibility for your behavior, you watch out for conflicts of interest, you cooperate and consult with other professionals, you don't ignore unethical behavior of colleagues, and you donate some of your time. Principle C is integrity. C is integrity. And this is defined as you promote honesty and accuracy. You don't condone cheating or fraud. And if you have to lie in the course of doing good psychology, then you need to take steps to undo the damage. Principle D is justice. And this includes fairness, equal access for everyone, unbiased research, and this is very important that you work within the limitations of your expertise and within the boundaries of your competence. And then the last one, Principle E, is respect for people's rights and dignity. All right, and this, when we respect people's dignity, we safeguard people who can't make decisions for themselves, and we also, and this is, worth is a big part of this, and so worth and dignity mean that we also have respect for age, gender identity, race, ethnicity, culture, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, disability, language, and socioeconomic status. And we believe that everyone has the right to privacy, confidentiality, and self determination. And we also eliminate bias, and both in our personal biases, and we don't condone biases in others or in research. Okay, and so that's a quick overview of the first three parts of the Code of Ethics. And having gone over that, you should be able to answer this question right here, which is, providing pro bono services is covered in General Principle B. Without even reading it, what can we assume about it? And because it's covered in General Principle B, we can assume that it's suggested, it's not required. Because remember, the general principles are aspirations. And here's another one from the preamble. Psychologists are committed to ensuring the what of individuals and groups with whom they work. And the answer is welfare and protection. And I'm a big fan of mnemonics for memorizing lists of things. So I asked ChatGPT to come up with one for me, and I think it did a great job. When trying to memorize the general principles, which are beneficence and non-maleficence, fidelity and responsibility, integrity, justice, and respect, it came up with be friendly. I'm doing ethics. Be friendly. I'm doing ethics, which I kind of love. But maybe more important than that is really just understanding what each one means. And so just boiling them down to a two-word phrase. Beneficence is doing good and not harm. Fidelity is about being trustworthy. Integrity is about being honest. Justice is about being fair. And respect and dignity are about respect, especially respect for autonomy. All right, that is the end of the first video, and the next one we will dive into the fourth part, which, if you recall, is ethical standards.